All right, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Sacramento Water District. I'm ordered meeting to order. We'll start with the pledge of allegiance, please.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. So we do non-agenda items for.
No.
So is anybody wishes here to speak on non-agenda items, something that doesn't have to do with investigation in the combination study? Seeing none.
You do have a card right there. That might be during public comment session.
Bill Holman, does this have to do with combination or?
No, it's got to do with a safety issue.
Wish to speak now?
I live right on the corner of Norris and Auburn, and your pump house is right behind my property, which is no big deal at all. Except that you guys have two trucks that come in. One has to pull around and park in front of the house. And if you haven't noticed, the Auburn Boulevard is now turned into Indy 500. So, and the poor guy that drops off the chemicals in the morning, he gets there about 7:30 or a little bit earlier. And one of these days, somebody's gonna find him. So, which really is, I talked to one of your employees that was there, he was actually doing some service on the pump. And they parked in front of my house, which is still a column. But right there between Auburn and my fence is an easement for the county. They say that they're gonna maybe widen Auburn Boulevard out. That's probably when I get the next call to go on the space shuttle mission. So what would be really good is you've got a concrete walkway there, is just extend from your little driveway that goes back up into the pump house. Just come down probably about 20 or 30 feet where you could park your second truck there. Or the guy that's dropping off chemicals, he could pull straight in instead of having to go out to Auburn Boulevard and then back in. Because like I said, he's probably gonna get found one day, and it's no big deal to me. I've got all the connections for the guys that run that easement. They're really pretty good group of guys. I have them come out and clean the homeless off every once in a while. So, you know, it's just an idea, and I just don't want somebody to get hurt.
Understand, I appreciate it, and we got some notes here, we'll pass it on very much. Thank you. All right, thank you for that. All right, I will pass it to this part. Jennifer.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for coming out on this rainy night. We really appreciate your time and attention tonight. My name is Jennifer Forsyth, and I'm here assisting to facilitate this public meeting tonight. So I want to just mention again, the purpose of this workshop is to engage with all of you, to get your questions and comments regarding the further analysis report that's going to be presented in just a moment. So that's the main purpose of our meeting tonight. We, of course, after the presentation that will be presented by General Manager Dan York, we will be launching the process for your questions and comments. And what we will ask is that you complete one of these cards. These are over on the table. If you would put your name and your general location there, so we kind of know what part of the service area you're coming to us from. I'll be collecting those cards from you all, and then we will be going through them sort of one by one. And what I'll ask is that you come to the podium to state your question or comment, and then there will be response if necessary from the directors or from the general manager, Dan York. We also will be taking questions from folks that are joining us virtually. So we will kind of go back and forth. So we have folks in the room and then the folks that are here online. So just if you've got something, you can think about that. And for those of you online, we'll ask that you put your question or comment in the chat. And I will be assisted here by Heather. She and I will be working together to make sure we get through all of those comments. All right, and then once we've gotten through all the presentation, the questions, the comments, we're gonna do something I think that you'll appreciate and hopefully benefit from. We will ask the directors to come from behind the dais, and they're gonna be mingling here. And they wanna, chat with you individually if you've got questions for your elected representative that you would like to just present to them at that time. That's another opportunity, a little more informal. So we'll get to that after we get through the more formal part of the presentation. Then they will come back and we will officially adjourn the meeting. So I want to also mention we've got material. Hopefully you saw that when you came in. We also have more information on the Sacramento Suburban Water District website. So to avail yourself of that information because we have that there for you. All right, now I'd love to make a few introductions here. First, your elected directors that are seated here around the table. We have Division 1 Director David Jones. We have Division 2 Director Jay Boatwright. We have Division 3 Director Robert Wickard. And Division 4, Kevin Thomas, who is also currently the president of the Sacramento Suburban Water District Board. And finally, Division 5, Craig Bach. So those are the folks here that are anxious to hear your questions or comments. So we're going to move to the next slide. I guess I got through the welcome. So the one after that. All right. I'm going to talk just very briefly about where we are in the process, but I wanted to start with the why. Why is the Sacramento Suburban Water District and the Carmichael Water District engaging in this exploration of a potential combination? What drove them to come together to basically explore, look into this, analyze it, etc.? Well, these two agencies, just like hundreds of water agencies throughout California, are dealing with many challenges today and what it's forecasted for the future. Climate change, we're seeing that. Boy, are we seeing that even this week, 70-degree temperatures. Isn't that crazy? In January, now it's raining like cats and dogs. We've all seen the weather extremes, right? So climate change is real. And it will have and is having a tremendous impact on water supply reliability, how to utilize existing systems, all of those kinds of things. So that's number one. Another challenge, again, throughout the state is the mounting regulatory and legislative mandates. These are on a variety of issues, everything from mandated water conservation, which is coming, and a variety of water quality issues. The more we are able to measure, the more we are able to regulate. That seems to be the way it works. So of course, that also drives costs related to water quality. So that is another key issue. So those are two of the biggest things, the drivers of, what might we do potentially together using economy of scale to address some of these issues, to maybe enhance the way that we can use our water systems and our resources, et cetera, our staff expertise. So those are all of the things that these two districts have been exploring, because number one is to continue to provide excellent service to their customers at an affordable cost. So I wanted to give you the why. So there's the why. You'll hear a lot more about that. Now I'll address where are we in this process. So we go back to that slide.
The one before?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
We've been engaged in this now for, several months, actually, longer than that. We started out with an initial study. That was step one. That was provided by a third party, just looking at the overall potential of a combination. And then we brought the customers together. You might remember that we had a workshop for Sac Suburban customers and for Carmichael Water District customers back in June. We took all of those questions and comments, along with a lot of things that directors are raising as well. And we went back down into the deeper dive, which is step 3, further analysis around all the different issues that are being looked at related to the combination. So tonight, we are presenting that further analysis report to you, and then you'll have your opportunity to ask questions around that. So without further ado, I will turn this over to General Manager Dan York.
Thank you, Jennifer. So I'm also going to introduce the district's general counsel, Mr. Josh Horowitz. He can answer any legal questions, and then Ms. Kathy Lee, she's the general manager at Carmichael Water District. So any questions related to Carmichael, she can answer those. So thank you again for coming out in this stormy weather. Going to start before we get into the first PowerPoint presentation here is a little overview where we started, where we're at in a high level of both Sac Suburban and Carmichael. So we actually started back in 2020 with San Juan Water District, talking about a combination discussion that went into addressing from both respective boards to a collaboration study. So Sac Suburban and San Juan teamed up with 5 other water agencies. One of those is Carmichael, to conduct a collaboration study. And that was pretty much a report card of how the districts are doing, finding efficiencies and how they can operate in a more efficient manner. Once that was completed and approved by both boards or accepted, direction was given by both the Sac Suburban board and Carmichael board to start discussing the combination. That was in July of 2021. Since then, we've had 18 2x2 committee meetings. On those committees is Director Locke and Director Jones. And then from the Carmichael side of it was Director Nelson and Director Emerson. We've also had 3 joint board meetings during that time frame. And this will be the 4th public information workshop. So Carmichael's had 2 of them. This is our 2nd one. I see a lot of new faces, again, so appreciate it. So real quick, Sac Suburban, we have 47,000 connections. We have 75 employees, and we have an annual revenue of $50 million. We have 71 groundwater wells with capacity of about 171 million gallons per day. And we're currently drilling 4 brand new wells. We also have 2 surface water entitlements. One of those is 29,000 acre-feet per year from Placer County Water Agency, which we actually pay San Juan to treat, deliver to us. There's no service area. And then the other one is 26,000 acre-feet from the city of Sacramento that we have treated through their Fairbairn treatment plant. Carmichael Water District, they have 12,000 connections. They have 25 employees. Their revenue is around $20 million annually. So combined, it would be like $70 million of a combined agency there. They have 3 service water rights that total a little above 31,000 acre-feet. They also have, I think, 5 groundwater wells, Kathy? 6 groundwater wells. I think capacity is about 9 million gallons a day. Yeah. So that's kind of a high level overview there as far as what we are, who we are, and how we got. So with that, Heather, go to the next slide. Okay, so tonight's presentation, I'm going to go over in not great detail, but there'll be some overview. We're going to talk about governance and representation, the rates and financial considerations, water quality, which includes fluoride, water supplies and water rights. Also a model emerged district, if this was to occur, opportunities for, existing employees for both agencies. Also the benefits to accommodation, the LAFCO process, the LAFCO is the one that approves this. And the next steps, and then we'll go to the, questions, like, as Jennifer mentioned, in kind of an open house atmosphere. The next slide.
Mhm.
So governance. So if this were to occur, it would start with 11. You always want an odd number of board members. So right now we have 10, 5 Carmichael, 5 Saxon. So we would start with 11 directors, per the water code for law, that 11th director can remain vacant. But again, it is, the ultimate is to have an odd number. To do that, to get down to what the directors have, tentatively voted for was to be 7 directors, by 2026. We have, I'll step aside here for this map here. So this map here shows in blue, these are the divisions for the, Saxon Urban Board of Directors. And in purple, these are the 5 divisions for the Carmichael Board. So ultimately, by 2026, if this were to occur, this area would have to be, drawn up with 7 divisions. And that process is to go through, there's a lot of, scrutiny. You've got to go through public comment, legal counsel review. An important one is the Sacramento County Register Office, because there is, requirements. You can't just go in and start drawing lines. We want to draw them. And the goal there is to try to get as much, similar representation per director as you can, in the seven areas. So again, it takes a while to do that. So that'll be, some work's got to be done there. The next slide, Heather. So the recommendation by the boards, that was, determined and voted on at the October 24th. So here's kind of, and so when I show you these numbers here, this is the average, billings per month per customer type. So you'll see right here, the first one, for Carmichael is $86.34 in Saxon Urban 76.39. So that's basically a 5/8 3/4 or 1-inch meter. We got a few 1.5 meters for customers that have really large lots, but it's basically 5/8 3/4 and 1.
Are we asking questions as you go along, or?
If you can, you wait till I get through there.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. And then the next one, non-residential customers, that is everything above the 1 inch. So that's 1.5 inch, 2 inch, 3 inch, 4 inch, we even have 8 inch meters in the system. So the water rates are constructed for Carmichael on the fixed charge is 55% fixed charge, and then 45% on the usage charge. So the 55%, that's just before you use a drop of water. That's what you're paying into that water bill. For Saxon Suburban, we have it at 69% for the fixed charge, and then 31% for the usage charge. Again, that's the average. Next slide. So here it goes over the current debt. So right now, Carmichael's debt is a little over $32 million. Saxon Suburban is a little above 54 million. Carmichael's, you can go their annual debt, it's $2.5 million. If you break that down per account, it's about $215 per account, and that'll be fully amortized by 2038. On Saxon Suburban side, ours is about $7 million a year. If you go per account, it's $150 per account, and will be fully amortized by 2031. So again, if this were to occur, the future rate structure, it would be based on a combined operation and maintenance and capital improvements for both agencies. There could be some initial startup costs. Just example, there's IT issues or transforming the IT departments and if the modifications for buildings, et cetera. That's the startup cost. You also have to go with the State Water Board, Division of Drinking Water to do new water system permit. They charge you for that. So there is some initial startups, but the goal here is after this would occur, you start seeing savings after the initial startups. Potential for greater rate and financial stability, and potential for lower rate increase over time. So I can't stress enough on that. I mentioned, I haven't mentioned it yet, the rate base. So that is how you save money going forward for the ratepayers. And I use this example at our first workshop, and Jeff, correct me if I'm wrong. So if we were to raise $1 million a year towards O&M or CIP for a 12,000 connection system, it would be a little over $6 per month. If you do that for a 47,000 connection system like Saxon-Burton, would be $1.71. For a combined 59,000 connections, it's about $1.40 a month. So you can see the size of the rate base, how that reduces that cost. And I can assure you that, and both districts have done a good job, I'll cover that later, the rates have to go up. Cost of living, we're not done with our improvements. The system has to be continually improved. When you install water mains and groundwater wells and even your treatment plants, you got to continue the maintenance on them and replacement cycle. So here we got to be honest, the rates will continue to have to be raised to maintain the system, so we can supply a reliable water system for our customers. So I'll probably a couple times in this presentation stress the rate base. So the liability and the debt management, so by law, each agency is responsible for its debt. So Saxon-Burton customers can't pay for Carmichael's debt, and the Carmichael ratepayers can't pay for Saxon-Burton's. Now, there could be in the future, if this were to occur, the new board could actually combine those if they want to get a better interest rate. Again, that would be up to the board, but until then, as I explained, Carmichael doesn't pay for Saxon-Burton's debt and vice versa.
What are your current interest rates?
We've got multiple issues right now. It's interesting. I just calculated this last year, we were right at about 2.67% on all of our issuances for what our interest expense was for the year.
Okay, so again, potential reassessment for lower interest rate. And of course, a larger rate base, you're going to get a favorable rating when you do this. So as I mentioned earlier, both Carmichael and Saxon-Burton's done an excellent job maintaining their systems. Again, it's continual. We're not going anywhere in the future, so to continue doing that one. And again, LAFCO, part of the resolution that goes to LAFCO is to ensure that, again, as I mentioned before, they'll be paid for that. And again, I can't stress enough, the infrastructure improvements, that's going to be where you get the best thing for the buck. As Jennifer mentioned, we have climate change issues and regulations, but again, you know, in 2023, I believe was the first time that staff had to go back to the board and ask for a budget amendment. And I think one of the directors of Carmichael mentioned that their workshop last week. Prior to COVID, a mile of pipeline to replace was about $2 million a mile. It's about 3.5 now. And a new well was about 3.5 million before COVID. The new well now between $6 and $8 million. So yeah, it is what it is. It's not going to go backwards. So again, just that rate base is going to help reduce the customers' impact. Okay, water quality. I mentioned that. So real quick, see the map right here in blue. That's called the Saxon-Burton's North Service Area. And the yellow is Saxon-Burton's South Service Area. So in the South Service Area, we actually fluoridate the water. So Saxon-Burton back in 2007, got some grant funding from First Five to fluoridate that system, which we have a 20-year agreement. So we have to 2027 that we have to provide fluoride in the area. We tried to get out of that contract over the last several years. We had to wait it out to the 2027. But there's no mandate for us to continue fluoridating. There's no mandate for Carmichael to fluoridate the water as well. So talking about the water quality. And real quick too, I want to mention, so I mentioned the groundwater and surface water supplies. So both Sac Suburban and Carmichael, their surface water comes from the upper and lower American River. And as well, the groundwater comes from the same basin. We're all in the same basin right here. Carmichael's down here, right here in this area, in the lower right hand right here. And here's our system right here. So it's all the same basin right there. And water sources, again, talk about that. For Sac Suburban, just to clarify, we are a groundwater system. That's why we have so many groundwater wells. And when the water is available for surface water, we purchase that. Our board members do an excellent job each year of budgeting for that. We receive that water about 6 out of 10 years, with the stipulations on when we can receive it. And I went back and trying to my memory here today. So the last 5 years, I believe, for the North Service area, we were about 59% groundwater. The remaining was surface water, and then the South Service area was 79% groundwater, and the rest was surface water. But I want to share also in the South Service area over the last probably 4 years, we entered into an excellent relationship with the city of Sacramento. So their cost of their water was really expensive, so the district didn't purchase it for quite a long time. They've since reduced that at a pilot where we purchased it. We purchased it a couple of years in a row on that one there. And we also, when we do water transfers, we do a groundwater in loop transfer. So we provide in groundwater while they're having surface water, they sell it. So whatever acre feet we provide them in groundwater, say for example, we provide them 5,000 acre feet of groundwater in 1 year. The following year, they'll give us 5,000 acre feet of surface water at no cost. So we can turn our groundwater wells off and rest the basin. So it's turned into an excellent partnership with the city of Sacramento. And Carmichael, their concern, of course, is to remain their water quality with their surface water. They would continue to do that and maintain it. So reliability, I hit on that. During the drought of 2015, Sac Suburban pumped groundwater solely, got by. There's a lot of districts who had issues. I know, unfortunately, Carmichael, I think, really got curtailed 3 times. 3 times?
2 times.
2 times.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So that's where the state curtailment means. That's where the state tells Carmichael they cannot use their surface water rights, right? Okay. Again, integration, it's just more opportunities to provide in case there's emergencies, supplies. Now there is infrastructure restrictions though. Right now, and I explained this at the Carmichael workshop last week, Sac Suburban, even though we have 1 water system permit with the state, we actually have 4 different water systems we operate. One is way up here, it's called the Arbors. It's the old air base housing in Antelope. And then of course we provide water to McClellan. So water only goes into McClellan, doesn't come out. And then we operate our North Service area and South Service area. So kind of the operation for the occur would be Carmichael would operate as the 5th system. But again, in the case of emergency, we can transfer water in need. Okay, so again, doing this, it's going to promote sustainable and reliable water. Our service here to our customers is to provide it 24/7. That's our job. And we take it seriously, and the board members take it seriously. In fact, remind you, our board members here are customers, so they pay the water bills just like everybody else in the room here. And then again, Carmichael would maintain their historical access to the surface water rights that I mentioned earlier. So model MERS district. So right now, Carmichael is an irrigation district. They have the right or the authority to provide drainage, electrical power, sewer services. But they've chosen to only provide water. In fact, in Canada, they have their sewer systems. And then Sac Suburban, we're a county water district. We could, if you wanted to, wastewater, fire protection, solid waste services, but we've chosen only to provide that water service. So at October 24th joint board meeting, both boards, voted to, if this were to go forward, to be a county, water district. So if this were to move forward, as mentioned several times already, there's two ways to do it: consolidation and reorganization. So reorganization is basically, it's where either Carmichael goes under Sax-Suburban or Sax-Suburban goes under Carmichael, and you keep that name. Consolidation is what the former Arcade and Northridge did. It starts out brand new. So brand new name. It starts from scratch. You still have to honor your contracts and everything else, but it's a brand new, like the brand new name. So you're starting from fresh. So again, at the October 24th joint board meeting, the boards voted if this were to occur, that would be a consolidation. So again, it goes forward. No longer would be Sax-Suburban or Carmichael, it would be a brand new name. It'll be a fun process. When Arcade Northridge did it, it took several months to come up with the name and logos, et cetera, for the board to approve. So, opportunities for employees. So, I mentioned, Sax-Suburban has 75 employees and Carmichael has 25. Sax-Suburban has a little bit more distinctive departments. We have a full HR department. We have a regulatory department. Carmichael doesn't. They give opportunities for Carmichael employees to maneuver around inside the district. As a small district, only have so much room to move upwards. So this could get opportunities for employees to move up the org chart for future advancements. One thing that Carmichael Water District, they have, I think, 11 employees in operations that are represented by a union. Sax-Suburban is not represented by the union, so that would have to be something to be dealt with. I believe that would be a continuation subject to a majority vote. Right. So the benefits, I mentioned before, and I think the first two bullets and the last bullet, that's where it really hits hard. You're always going to find economies of scale and efficiency. As I mentioned at the Carmichael workshop, there was a comment made about the benefits of the Arcade and Northridge consolidation. And I mentioned that when it first happened, the public didn't want it to happen, the employees didn't want it to happen, the board members decided to have it happen. It was a really rocky road the first year. In our report, we do have a lessons learned of what not to do that happened there. But it has grown into efficiencies. As I mentioned at the Carmichael workshop, Sax-Suburban has got loans over $100 million. We paid into the infrastructure that goes from San Juan down to our system, and we have a team main that we installed in Annalberry down to our system. We bought into the city of Sacramento's Fairbairn treatment plant at about $48 million to get that water. And what we've done, and I mentioned it too, we're not the only ones who've done it, but we were the major player in it, is when we buy the service water and turn our groundwater wells off, the basin recovers. And I don't have that chart here I can show you, but there's a chart that we always showed from the 1940s down to current. And the basin is declining about 1.5 feet a year. And when Sax-Suburban and Carmichael has got some big water too, in the county of Sacramento, in the I think it was 1980s, the late 1980s, I forgot what it was. The basin started recovering. So since then, as I mentioned, the board members, whenever we get service water available, we purchase it. And we've banked over 300,000 acre feet. Carmichael's banked about 50,000, I believe, Kathy, is that correct? In county Sacramento, about 50,000. There's some others too, but Sax-Suburban has been a major player in that. And I continue to thank this board members and past board members on doing that to help recover that basin. So, and I mentioned the infrastructure improvements. Everything is costing, it's increasing enormously. And to maintain a lower, monthly water bill, that's paramount. And I will share, I mentioned earlier that the Arcade Workers merger, had they stayed alone and not merged, our 3/4 inch water bill right now would not be $50 a month. It would probably double that. for Arcade or Northridge, just on what we've done in the systems. So, you know, again, on the scale, you're gonna find them, the opportunity for staff retention and growth areas there. And hopefully, you know, greater influence, a bigger area, you know, bigger voice, you know, political, et cetera. But again, the first two bullets and the last bullet are paramount, in these efforts. So as Jennifer mentioned, we're here at step 3. And so, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and go sit down and let the public, I'll move this around. So our board members can hear from the public.
Excellent. Thank you, General Manager Dan York.
Thank you.
All right, so now it is time for questions and comments. And I just want to remind everyone how we're going to run this. For those in the room, if you would fill out one of these yellow rod, golden rods, whatever we call this color, they're over there on the table. And if you would fill that out with your name and the area you're from in the service area or the community, just so we have a sense of who's here with us tonight. And then we're asking those of you that are joining us online to put your question in the chat, and we will rotate back and forth so that everyone has an opportunity. When I do call on you, please come to the podium to speak, to ask your question or make your comment. That way everybody can hear you, the directors can hear you. That would be much appreciated. And again, for those online, we'll be handling that when we get to your question. Let's see, anything else? So there is no time limit, but we do ask that we are respectful to make sure we're able to answer everybody's questions that may happen here this evening. So hopefully that is clear. And we are going to start this evening with our first speaker, that is Sky Brown. I'd love to meet. Please,
Lucky me.
yeah,
Is it not working?
kicking it off. And if you would let us know where you're from and the community is.
Yeah, Ski Brown, I'm from, Fulton Oaks, between Arden and Alta Arden and Fulton and Morris. Down near Kaiser, Sacramento suburban. Since the 80s when I bought it in the neighborhood. When I first looked at this, I thought this was gonna be a pretty complicated issue, and after I thought about it a while, and I realized I underestimated that. You know, one of my biggest concerns though is that, I guess could be phrased like this, it's like, you know, part of my bill is segregated into infrastructure or delivery costs, and the other is water costs. And if I look at one of those aspects, the delivery costs, that's maintaining the assets that are currently in the water district. And I don't know if everybody on a I don't know if anybody in every district or every water district or division within the district pays the same maintenance rates regardless of where they live, or whether they pay more if you live in certain areas of that district. So I don't know the answer to that question, but that's an important aspect because the question is whether if what I pay is subsidizing the maintenance of the infrastructure in another division of my same district. And that issue becomes even more complicated when we start trying to evaluate the combination of these two water districts. The other thing that's not shown here is the commercial versus the residential split and how that complicates the issue. And unfortunately, I don't have one question. I guess I have maybe I could best come at it this way. Is there a way that you folks plan to put forward some details about how you're trying to evaluate the relative merits of these two districts. So that when we come out with one district, we have an even or fair split amongst all of the residents in that combined district. And I guess that's my overall question as to whether or not you're going to provide some way that we can determine whether or not, or let me put it this way, whether I can determine whether I'm subsidizing somebody else or whether they're actually subsidizing me. You know, I get a break by joining, or maybe they get a break by joining, you know. So that's basically my point. And well, anyway, there it is.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll hit the first part of it to answer your question on the rates. So all of our ratepayers pay the same as far as the fixed rate.
So within a division, all the residences pay the same
Yes,
unit or proportional cost.
exactly. And we also have, Sac Suburban has, we call it pay-as-you-go program. That's part of the capital improvement. So we receive about, and I'm looking at Jeff, about 17 million a year, 20 million a year for CIP. So we already had that built into the rates. It's just when we raise the rates, it's what costs above that. So we already have a component built in for the CIP programs, but I can't share with you. We have asset management plans that actually have us determine where that funding needs to go. So sooner or later, it's going to be the customers are going to get a benefit from that.
So is that methodology similar with Carmichael District so that you can compare apples to apples?
In our initial, when we first started doing the combination studies, some of the early go through, we kind of looked at the way, how much money each district was investing in their infrastructure and how much, and part of the study about looking at the rates where you see what the average rate is. In a similar level, we were looking at the way that CIP investments were made. And what we found when we looked at it is that Carmichael and Sac Suburban generally refurbish their infrastructure at a similar rate based on our budgets, similar percentage. And with respect to your question of you're in the South Service area, we don't necessarily, as a district, as directors, we don't necessarily look at when we're funding CIP projects, or actually when Dan brings them to us and we look at them and he tells us his budget and the priorities, we don't look at it as, is it my electoral district? Is it the North Service area? We're a district as a whole. And so we write the priority projects, the CIP priority projects, on what's going to give the district as a whole the best return on investment and where the biggest need is. Because we have things, when you replace pipes, you know, you're stopping leaky water leaking out, what they call non-revenue water. So there's all different things that impact what makes a project, what a priority project. And that's done not based on who's there or who's representing them, but what's the need of the greater whole. And I'm sure that'll continue on in a combined district.
Sort of a related question is, are we generally making progress? Getting a better return, or actually, let me put it this way. Maybe it's the smaller rate of return on projects as we go forward. Or are we aging, is our infrastructure aging faster than we are improving it? Which way are we headed on that curve?
Almost every water district, I think, in the state is aging out faster than it's being improved. We're doing better job keeping up on it than most districts, I would say.
Yeah.
How old is the oldest main?
Matt.
60, 70 years would be the oldest.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a small percentage of the overall.
And it's Director Locke just mentioned, you know, we had for about, I don't know, 12, 13 years, we replaced over 100 miles of pipeline. That's the leaky ones he's talking about that was not getting revenue. So we got those first out of the way. So.
And the state has started to mandate that we go after non-revenue water and reduce our waste for every water district in the state. And that's costing each district more and more money. And it's going to be, it's kind of a fact of the changing regulatory environment, which is why we started looking at this. We're looking at ways that we can, as a region, you know, keep our heads above water as the regulation starts costing more money and reducing our ability to invest in new infrastructure.
One thing to keep in mind is that we have a condition assessment program that takes a look at the district, Sac Suburban as a whole, and tries to find the areas that need the work. If they're 60 or 70 years old and they don't need the work, really don't spend the money on it. But if it's only 10 or 20 years old, we've had some problems with some meters and things that weren't very old, but they needed to be fixed. So we went after the things that needed to be fixed rather than spending money on things that didn't. And that's all over the whole system. And I'm not that familiar with Carmichael, but I would believe that the policy of the combined districts would be to have a condition assessment program similar to that, so that the work is done in areas that we would mention.
All right, if you have a question, if you'll fill out a card, we've got someone that's ready to roll here, Joy Hahn.
I was at the Carmichael meeting last week because I'm from Carmichael, and I came with an open mind, and just so the audience knows, basically all the attendees at the Carmichael meeting were against this, and they were really well prepared. I was just listening, but they were very vocal and not in favor of it. They also, the Carmichael board said at least a couple of times that there was no compelling reason to move forward with this. And so again, I came with an open mind. I was sort of shocked that the response from the board was there was no compelling reason. So I just want to let you know how I remember the meeting last week. But my question, I have a lot of questions, but on this cost savings issue, in terms of capital improvement, I would do the math a little differently. So if Sac Suburban has capital expenditures and Carmichael has Carmichael has expenditures, and you put them together, the rate per ratepayer is going to be the same. There's going to be no savings to the ratepayer. The only way there'd be savings is if we get capital expenditures for Sac Suburban, but not Carmichael. Then you have a bigger base, right? You have more users. So then the cost of capital per user goes down. But I don't think you should use this argument anymore that capital costs will go down with a larger base. Capital costs are going to go up when you got more people. That's how I think it's going to work. So that would be one comment.
So one thing to think about is something that we at Sac Suburban have done in the last year. We had a tremendous problem getting contractors to actually work on our system. Everybody's busy. COVID made it worse. The electrical equipment can't be found for love nor money. So what we did is we teamed up with a pump company, Kirby Pump, and we essentially said, we want you to work just for us. And they have been working for us, and they have been bringing pumps and wells back online at a much faster rate than we were able to do without them. It's cost effective, and it's only cost effective because Sac Suburban is big enough to absorb them totally and put them to work. If Carmichael joined Sac Suburban, they would also enjoy the benefits of being a large enough entity to do those sorts of things.
That is really helpful to know. That's a great example. Seriously, thank you.
Yeah.
And does this board in general, though, think like what was expressed at the last meeting that there's no compelling reason to merge? Maybe I misheard that, but I asked a couple times last time. There a compelling reason?
I can think of a lot of them, but yeah, I'll let if anybody wants to go first, I kind of monopolize the last question.
We wouldn't be here if there weren't any compelling reasons. Just the region's resources, and better management of them. And what we've said before, as Dan gave the speech,
So when we use about 30,000 acre feet a year. And when we have surface water available, we use 50% or more surface water available so that we can recharge our basin and keep our basin available. It costs us less to pump water when the basin's higher, the basin water quality is better, and it's there for us to pump from. We don't have to dip wells deeper and deeper and to keep moving the pumps down. So being able to utilize all the region's surface water in the region, I think is very important. Now, one of the things that's happened recently is, the state has decided that there's a basic human right for water, right? That's what came through, 2 or 3 years ago? So we're in a, democracy. So the majority of the people that live in California don't live in Northern California where the water is. So the water that is in the region that we buy and we use when we can't pump groundwater, that water, right now, people are selling it down the river, but at some point, the state's talking about relooking at the water rights and readjusting. And it's my belief, I don't know, this is my own personal bias, but I'm thinking that the more water that we put to beneficial use in our region by using it within the way I see this is going to work is as a combined district, the more that water right is protected. That the less that if someone is going to say that you're not using the water, we need to send it down south through the tunnels or the peripheral canal or whatever scheme happens to be ultimately constructed. That water is being used here and it stays here and it stays in the region, and we replenish our basin for when we need it in the drought, and we use surface water when we have it available. And we do that not as SSWD, not as Carmichael, not as San Juan, but we do it as a region north of the American River.
Here, here.
Thank you so much. My sense is, one of the top benefits is not cost savings, actually. You'll have one that's general manager, but generally general managers, just, their pay goes up when they have a larger agency, so I don't know if there's really going to be cost savings, but this sort of power in negotiating things sounds really good to me. Also, Carmichael is so small, I think the employees would, I don't know them, but other times there are more opportunities for employees in a larger organization.
That's one more thing on that employee thing. You look at an IT department that has 5 guys in it. And if you're a big enough organization, you have 5 guys in your IT department. One of them moves to Canada, one of them gets hit by a bus, one of them retires, whatever. You got 4 other guys. They're there and they have the knowledge, the institutional knowledge, and know how everything works. If you're a small agency and you have an IT department with 1 guy and he moves to Canada, yeah, you're at least long for until you can get a new guy on board and train him up. And that gap, we're not, as a large agency, a larger agency, we're not subject to that. We SSWD is able to roll with it because we have, I don't know how many IT guys, but more than four. Yeah, so there you go. And that's, or if you outsource it, if you're really small, you have to outsource your IT. And that's just one example. I mean, that goes for HR, accounting, take your pick.
I have a question for you. I listened to the Carmichael meeting and I couldn't find a single person who was in favor of the combination. I listened to everybody. Now, somebody told me there was one that was in favor, but I didn't hear him. I may have gone and get a cup of coffee, but I was listening on Zoom and I heard nobody in favor. So the board sits up there and listens to person after person saying they don't like it, they don't like it, they don't like it. And the board, if they decided not to proceed, they could have made a motion and voted on it right there and quit. So I don't understand how you can, I don't know. So was every board member polled to ask if they want to continue? I don't know what you mean by there is no compelling reason.
Oh, it was a question that came up, so you're right. I think there was one person in the audience in favor, that the board was not unified in making a strong presentation, and they couldn't explain why they were in favor of it. So there was no vote or anything, but, I even asked, I said, is it for cost savings? And I think they said no, they just had decided to think about the merger. So maybe it was a really off night, but it was shocking, actually.
I would be more inclined to think that they were reacting to their constituents.
I'm just listening.
Well, yes, they were listening and they were kind of reacting to the sense of the room, and they didn't really want to get into a fight over that. But I may be wrong.
And let me just say, the guy who was in favor of it used to run the Sacramento County Water District. I worked.
Yeah, he was, yeah. Keep the-
Known him for 20 years, yeah.
But that,
Thank you,
that begs
Joy.
the question,
I'm gonna move on to our next question if you don't mind.
one thought,
No, can
why,
you-
why are we doing this, and talking about this, if we aren't reasonably assured that the other side is interested in this too? Because if they're not interested in this, then this is a waste of time. That's basically where I'm from here, I mean,
Okay, so Mary
okay.
Sullivan?
Hello. So kind of segueing, rolling off a number of questions that have already been asked. My name is Mary Sullivan Trivet. I live in Carmichael. My service is Sacramento Water District, so I was kind of surprised. I don't know how they split that up for you guys on the map. I think one of the meetings that came before you shared, because you come down Whitney and, you're on this side of Walnut and then the other side of the Carmichael. So I'm not sure water-wise, but Carmichael making a decision, but based on his questions, Sky's questions, so some of mine kind of go, where are you guys at in the decision here? When I came last year to one of your meetings, this was still kind of in the clouds and news kind of thought you're throwing it out there. But with that being said, if we repeat these continued meetings, where have you guys decisively at? Is this a done deal? When he is not done. So where are you at in decision wise? You at a 60-40 split? Are you at 80-20? You're waiting for last minute things? I mean, clearly like his question was, and we're all kind of figuring this out for tonight. You're sharing all these numbers with us, but at some point, there has to be some consensus of that. We're at 50-50, we're kind of still waiting again. If we got a board in Carmichael, my next question was, we ever gonna have combination meetings of Sacramento Suburban and Carmichael to discuss this? Because clearly we have different points of view, we have different concerns that where everybody's at, but if you as Sacramento Suburban, where's Carmichael, you don't know where Carmichael's at, and we're talking about combining this, and they're kind of going, but I don't wanna play with you. So, well, okay, we wanna play well here, but where are they at? Where's your decision at right now?
I can respond to that
Yeah, wait.
because I like to talk.
Okay,
So we had a combined board meeting. At the combined board
when was
meeting.
that?
October 24th.
October
The
24th.
last
This
one.
year?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
23rd,
well,
yeah.
23rd.
We've had a few.
Okay, last.
Okay, so at that meeting, there were two significant things, at least in my mind. One, we voted to have 7 board members. That did not pass unanimously because each board member has a vote. And you have to have a majority of the board in order to do anything. So we need 3 votes to do something, and they need 3 votes to do something. And there were votes on both sides to get 7 board members. There was also a vote to be a county water district. It wasn't unanimous. I think there was one person who wanted to be an irrigation district and one person who wanted to be a municipal water agency.
Yeah.
So it was 3-2 on Carmichael and it was unanimous on Sac Suburban. And as far as the 7 board members were concerned, was it unanimous and?
There was one director wanted 5.
Yeah, okay, on Sac
On Sac
Suburban, there
Suburban
was
side.
one board member. So when you ask, are we 50-50? Well, we had enough to make those votes and pass those 2 items. Now, we have a lot more to go before we're done, and we'll eventually have a final vote. Are we gonna do it or not? We haven't had that vote yet, but we're headed that direction.
So when do we get to hear these? Clearly, if you can't agree on board members, you have some deeper issues that are gonna be going forward here. You have a number of that, and put districts together and regardless of what numbers you're sharing with us right now, but at the end, it's just a concern that I have right now. If you're already going there for just board members alone and you get combining a district. So my initial question I was gonna have with you, I was just off with Sky, just kind of follow it, because that was a concern. But with your existing system that you already had existing in Carmichael and Sacramento suburban area. So can you tell me how you split Carmichael up like that? I like that Sacramento suburban. Is it Whitney Avenue and it splits? You know how that is? Why I'm in Carmichael, I don't have Carmichael water.
Yeah, I live in Citruside, so I have Sac Suburban Water.
Yeah.
There's no sense to
So
it. There's no sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
So with that, if and when this happens, let's just say you guys, that this is gonna be a done deal. Where is the system at? How old is the system in Carmichael for the upgrades? Are they older than Sacramento suburban? Is there gonna be a lot more investment wise? The systems are pretty on par equally?
Well, that's what we were talking about, I think, with the Sky's question, is that we're, that's,
I just got part of that.
oh, I'm sorry, that's what the response to Sky's question is. We looked at it as far as our investment as water districts into our system is fairly comparable.
So with the comparability that you're talking about here, you talked about a short increase jump for a period of time that we'd be paying, but then we get it back. So how short, small jump is it, that sound like to you, what's a jump to you? And what length of period of time you're talking, like over a year, 10-year period, but then you segue that with, but keep in mind, as the system keep going, we're gonna need upgrades. So if you just start paying $5 million for one well, and just because it is what it is today, we accept it, pay $8 million. When you went ahead and found some guy to come in with your own drills and take care of, made a bid and made it competitive, it sounds like we just have to take whatever is out there, and at the end of the day, the last meeting we came to last year, that's one of the discussions, how are you guys finding your work, and are you actually bidding on this, or just taking, as you said, it's getting tougher now because people can be more fussy about what they're getting, but with it, how long will that happen? So the kind of jump you're talking about, we're talking like $50 for a year, and then we get it back, or are we talking $5 for 2 years, and you're gonna have to stick with it kind of thing?
Yeah,
I'm sure I understood that question.
Yeah,
We talked about whatever short, once this happens, the combined things happen, we're gonna be an increase, right?
Yeah, I don't think those probably come out of reserves. I'm not anticipating.
Yeah.
Yeah, raising rates rates are set by a 218 process. It's a long, they don't just pop up and pop down. It's a very.
I'm just following what you wrote here. You printed, you have a short increase and then it come back to you.
Well, I think what it said was it's increased costs. I didn't know that necessarily, I don't think there was anything in there that said it would be increased in
The short
rates.
investment the first time and then it comes back to us.
I'm sorry, I understood.
It'd be an initial investment and then it would come back to us.
Oh, I think you're talking about some initial startup costs. Yeah,
That's fine.
yeah, that would come, they come out of reserves.
Okay, those are
Yeah.
administrative costs, correct?
Yeah.
And then just out of, well, that's what just, according to all these regulations things, is there a reason in the world why we haven't figured out some way to capture this excess? Water we have flowing down into the streets and no one's capturing it?
Storm drain water?
It's California, anywhere,
Storm drain water's pretty dirty.
but you have, there's no way to utilize it. I'm just asking, I'm just questioning, there's no way to capture that and see it, the rivers?
Well, we capture it goes into the rivers and then ultimately gets pulled out by treatment plants, but
It stays there, okay?
no, yeah,
No,
it requires a fairly lengthy treatment process.
gotcha. All right, we're out of here. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
All right. Jennifer Harris?
Your time. And I'm just been to a lot of these meetings from the very beginning. Have not been to one of the Carmichael District's meetings, but one thing that I haven't found here is a lot of backlash from the folks who usually give a lot of backlash in my area, which is Fulton and Marconi. And there hasn't been this, there was actually an email that came out to our neighborhood that said, hey, come to these meetings, they want your input. And the typical, this is horrific and terrible, was absent from that email. I was really interested in that. And another thing that I'm very interested in is the typical, there's one individual who seems to be pretty knowledgeable about water, who attends Sacramento Suburban Water District meetings, and that individual was fairly okay with this idea, which said a lot to me. I'm not a water person. I don't know water rights. I'm not an engineer. One thing I am gonna do is I'm going to submit this for further, would you like us to contact you or speak to the organization? Yes, I would. I think I'm gonna ask you to please come and speak to my neighborhood watch group, and I'll ask our neighborhood watch leader if we can just get a community group together, because that's one of the best ways that we share information when we as a public or a neighborhood don't really understand the details enough to be able to make a proper judgment on something. But I sure appreciate all the detailed information that's been sifted through over the last year or so at the Sacramento Suburban Water District meetings. So I will hand this into,
I'll take it.
there you go. Thank you very much for your time.
And thank you for attending our meetings so regularly.
Excellent. Thank you. Marty, Kara?
Her.
Marty, I live on Lawrence. I was a groundwater consultant. I think the most compelling reason to do the consolidation would be the combination of the groundwater insurances and the surface water association. One district is high in one and the other district is high in the other. And with the conjunctive use that's possible, I see that's the greatest benefit to this consolidation.
Thank you.
Gary?
Given my favorite tip, I'll address you from my seat. It come up in the discussion about replacing pipes, and the question I want to ask at that moment was, what's the specification lifetime of new pipe? You were talking about some USO pipes, so they're 60, 70 years old, and there's no problem when you replace them, but I presume that the modern replacements are specified to last longer than the pipes that you put in 50 years ago. So it's curious as how far into the future these new investments are expected to last. Of course, to be specified. Drive down added cost of capital. The things you're putting in the ground, future or long, or specified for the lasting.
I don't know what the lifespan PVC is, do you?
Well, actually, we're installing ductile iron pipe. Let Matt
Yeah,
respond to that one.
That's a great question. Expected useful life of new installed ductile main is 100 years. Not of existing pipe, but what we're installing now is anticipated to last 100.
What the years that go with them?
The meters will be on a different track, of course, because it's technology.
But I mean, you have, they're like for 10 years right now, or where they at now? 5?
Meters are at 20 years, 20 to 25.
Yeah, I think we were the last neighborhood in Carmichael to get meters, and that was like 2 years ago. We were kind of shocked with that. We were still paying the old rates, and said, oh, you get rid of that. We said,
Another state mandate.
Yeah.
Another state mandate.
Yeah.
The other question I had about capital expenses, aren't these areas built out? And is that there's no room for additional development in both of these districts? And as such, one would expect the number of connections to remain more or less the same, more or less indefinite. Is that true? Yeah.
Yes,
So it's an easier planning problem by far than a district that's growing or contracting.
when you're growing though, you have developers who are installing new infrastructure. And so, but yes, it's a, what is the maintenance cycle? And you can do a pretty good job at estimating your cost. Thing you can estimate is that the fire hydrants that we were buying 2 years ago for $8,000 are now 20.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow. Yep.
Yep.
They changed the things.
All right,
Statement.
Raymond Martin.
Good evening, I'm Raymond Martin, and I live over by Whitney and Eastern. And I have 2 quick questions. Number one, in the information they're showing right now that Carmichael average monthly payments are a little bit higher than this district is that possibly going to remain if there's a consolidation?
It's difficult to,
Go ahead.
no, it's difficult to tell what that will be, in the future, but what I will say is this, one thing I was shocked about when I saw that looking, not shocked, but one thing that showed me when I looked at the two is just, you look at the, Sax-Suburbans, I think are slightly lower because we're a bigger district. And that's that economy of scale that we were, and that's an aggregate, average monthly, but
Well, my question was, since I don't live over there, I didn't know if that was specifically due to the improvement cost, that differences that might be.
I don't know what it you attribute it to, but I think it's an indicator of how much more that efficiency you get from being bigger.
And just clarify too, so Carmichael, their main rate is a 1-inch meter. And Sax-Suburbans is a 3/4 inch meter. So when we do a 218 process, our rates, like 85%, Jeff, something like that, is 3/4 inch, roughly. Yeah, so there was a customer at Carmichael Workshop that mentioned to downsize. So that would be another opportunity for a customer who is on a 1-inch meter and has a small lot, they could downsize to a 3/4 inch meter, which would reduce their monthly rates.
All right. Second one might be a little off topic, so if it is, throw me out. How is the homeless affecting all the water pricing issues, throughout the neighborhood and if Carmichael,
Just the homeless for us, it's the efforts trying to keep them off out of our properties. We have a direct connection to the Sacramento County. I can't remember what they call them, but there's a
Hop or
hot, yeah. So we have a direct line if they're on our infrastructure, we can call them and they'll come out and remove them.
I got a quick answer to that. Get a lock to find the spigots.
Yeah.
Because I had the homeless start making the front yard, showering at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
A lock on it works wonders.
Little added information. Lois.
Rand, how do you pronounce your last name? Oh, thank you.
Hi, I'm Lois, and I'm here probably as a minority, I'm a renter. And I pay for water every month in the apartment complex. I don't know what the base rate is, I don't know, if back out the trash. So I don't know where my voice is heard. I'm not sure when you charge an apartment building for water, if I ask for that, they're allowed to tell me how much they pay for water. But what I do know, last year is that I paid $55. The year before I paid $55. Last year they jumped it to $75 for that trash included, 35% increase. So I really feel like I'm left out of discussions. And where do I go to get heard to see the money I'm spending for water, if I should have an opinion on this or if I'm allowed to.
Well, yeah, of course you're paying for it, you just don't know how much. Go maybe to your rental agency and I'm sure they can give you a breakdown of what garbage.
There are probably more renters than homeowners.
There are,
In cities.
and we know renters pay too, so we're reaching out to as many renters as possible too.
Well, it would be nice if we mandated that you were allowed to know.
Not yet, I'll let you know.
How much we don't pay a month to live. And I also noticed, the basic fees, that's all the same for any user of the water. A 3,000-foot house is paying the base fee as much as a 1,000-foot house. It seems like there's more revenue to have. What did that do?
Geographically, everybody pays the same, but there are different connection size, say a 1-inch pipe or a 3/4 inch pipe that services a house, and they will pay different rates.
Okay, the other thing is that there's somebody in handicap parking, which is great, that's what it's there for. There's somebody parked where the lines are, so if they're using a wheelchair, they can get in and out of the car.
Oh, you mean
Out here?
here
Yeah,
tonight?
here
Out here
tonight.
tonight?
Oh,
So
that can't be.
it's in the no parking zone with the lines.
Oh,
Thank you for your time.
thank you.
Do we have,
Hopefully it's not.
Other questions or comments?
Does
No.
this proposal require the approval of the ratepayers in a vote?
Just the board.
Yeah, it depends on which way it goes and what the vote is. Either way, the LAFCO process, I think, has a public comment or input.
Josh, are you up to speed on that?
Yes.
I would really like to give people a definitive answer to
Yeah.
that question.
There is the Sacramento Local Agency Formation Commission, which is the LAFCO that been referred to tonight by Mr. York and others. They ultimately get to approve or disapprove or condition an approval of a consolidation if this moves forward. What would happen is the two districts file an application. Once they agree to move forward, the LAFCO then would process that application. Once that application is processed, they would send out notices to all of the, not only ratepayers, but property owners in the two districts. Anyone would have a right to make comments, protest, or send in a comment of approval, whatever. Depending on how the process is conducted, and there are different ways that could happen. But ultimately, under certain conditions, if at least 1/4 of all the folks who either are customers or own property in the two districts protest, that would trigger a potential election. So, you know, it's going to be a numbers-based thing, but there is a potential for an election. But if nothing else, the Local Agency Formation Commission will have a hearing. They will invite public comment, so you will have an opportunity later on to make your voice heard in that process as well.
Election of what? I'm sorry, I'm not sure what that means.
Well, if the protest is high enough, there would be an election to either give a thumbs up or a thumbs down to the proposed combination.
In the election.
It would be a special election that the county would
We
run,
pay for it.
basically. It would be a mail ballot.
On that issue, the board seemed to be relatively in favor of this. Do we know how the ratepayers or the potential people in this election, a hypothetical election, how that would shake out right now? Or are we wasting our time? And I know the proposal isn't complete, we're just trying to develop it, but if there's no hope of bringing, say, Carmichael along on this, then what are we doing here? But spinning our wheel.
I think actually the best thing to do would be to watch very closely when we have the next combined board meeting. That will be extremely important. And
It's March, and it's March 4th. March 4th is,
Here?
yes,
So before, so in this space,
yes.
That's
so
right.
you're gonna use these monitors again?
Always.
Yeah, the
So
monitors.
Just a suggestion to you guys, you can put them on swivels and pivot them so we can read them.
So we usually do, I'm sorry, yeah, we usually do that one, but, sorry.
The reason why we didn't do this one is because with the public, it can be a hazard. You can hit your head if
But I'd rather
people are
read than
walking.
worry about my head after.
Yeah.
You can't see any.
Yeah.
Yes,
Just be
and the
careful.
meeting is being recorded as well.
So let me ask, so at the end of the day, regardless if you guys come together on a consensus of a board combining with whatever you vote on, whether your board members get together, we as a constituents, I even say, we're not happy with what you came up with, and we can vote against that. It may or may not work and or not, but you haven't even got yourselves agreed on how many board members you want, so.
we did, we agreed on 7.
That was the final.
Yeah.
We didn't hear, I didn't hear the bottom line, so you
Yeah.
got 7, okay? That would be your cap number. And that's between Carmichael and Sacramento Script, one of each.
Combined to 7,
Yeah.
right.
So you're saying, right?
Pardon me, I have no idea. It'll be an election. What they'll do is they'll take the combined district
Yeah.
and they'll draw up 7 areas, 7 divisions. And whichever one I'm in, if I decide to run, I'll run against whoever else wants to run. And there'll be an election.
Is that LAFCO who draws them up?
No.
No,
It would, we have some input, but it's really the county, registrar of voters that has the final say.
For the, okay, for the voting district or for the
Correct.
water?
Yeah, I believe, John, it'll be, require public meeting too, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
I mean, the divisioning process does require public input and the opportunity to use the maps and
Yeah.
provide input into those divisions.
Do we do that separate new law, representation, community representation also? As a combined.
I have no idea. That's up to the new board.
Well, we have to decide that, right? The district would have one lawyer instead of two.
We only have one board meeting a month. Huge thing.
Do we have a couple of other questions?
Yeah.
Excuse me, we have Teresa Aguilar. Want another one?
No, no.
I live in the Carmichael District. And I was wondering about the meeting that I did name. Thankfully, I have put online, which I never do. I was able to find out about the meeting being held. Is there a way that it can be sent out for notice to areas saying we're doing our district meeting? Because I think you get more people. So there's people like that emails are. Because they're important to come to. I've gone, Joy came, she's from our area. There's other people that would have come, but they don't know when and where.
Yeah, we actually mailed flyers out to all customers.
Yeah.
Postcard.
You know, and Carmichael we sent out a postcard.
Oh, postcard, yeah.
I did receive a postcard.
Yeah.
He's got him.
There you go, right there. Okay, thank you.
Did this meeting get put on,
Carmichael?
Channel 3? I know that the Carmichael
Yeah.
one was put up.
Oh, I don't know.
So this one was on Channel 3 as well, if you happen to watch Channel 3.
It was also in Arden magazine, it was in the Carmichael Times,
Okay.
and several other.
And the flyers for this meeting were mailed out to the Carmichael customers.
No, Carmichael, we mailed out a postcard for our meeting, and Saxon mailed out a postcard for Saxon meeting.
Oh, but we didn't do it for the combined district?
But it does have the date for both.
Oh, it has been for both, okay.
Yeah.
All right, Patricia Town.
I live in the Sacramento Suburban Water District, but I want to touch back on the last issues. If Carmichael doesn't want it, Suburban does, sometimes deciding back up. You know, well.
Not gonna happen. Nothing happens unless the two districts apply together, essentially. Right. But there's a whole overlay where if the LAFCO executive officer ever said, two districts should combine, I can make them. That is a possibility in this case. I would not expect that to happen. It's a willing combination, if you will. Both boards have to agree to go forward. If they do, they adopt resolutions that are reasonably similar. They use that basically as the opening piece of their application, file them with LAFCO accepts those, sends fill out an application, it's a long document, you have to provide maps and all the other information, and that's what LAFCO uses to actually process it. They're not gonna do any of that unless the two districts agree and provide all that information.
So most of Suburban has water meters, and Carmichael doesn't, or vice versa.
Suburban has 100% water.
They're both 100% metered.
Okay, so then you combine both of them, do you refinance what that cost is?
Unless you get the question.
No, I think the cost for installing the meters in Carmichael will continue to be borne by the Carmichael, former Carmichael, ratepayers, and the Sac Suburban ones would continue to amortize their own debt. Yeah.
Thank you.
It might be interesting just to take a count of the people here, who is for and who's against. just to see, because we've heard that Carmichael's kind of against it, and maybe we're more for it, or just for any interest, or trying to find out how many for it and how many are against it or are sitting here.
You're talking versus not so much Sacramento, in Sacramento versus Carmichael, because like I said, I'm in Carmichael, I'm at Sac Suburban Water District, and my friend who lives, so I'm on, right by Winston Churchill. My friend who lives, Stolwood, Lincoln, she has Carmichael Water District, but I can tell you, my water and her water, they are not the same, mine's much better tasting than her water in Carmichael, it's not as hard. So just for that reason alone, if I wanna change my shower head every 6 months, I'm definitely against it, but I get a cheaper rate. But at the end of the day, it is different water, so, since you're not really saying Sacramento, you're just saying the district of water that you're being billed by, right? One has nothing to do with the other. Clearly, because I'm in Carmichael and I.
Again, I live in
Yeah,
Clifford
you said
Heights, and I have Sac Suburban Water,
Yeah.
and who knew how they drew those lines? I don't know.
If I may, a lot of this is historical accident.
Right.
Back in the 40s, 50s, 60s, when suburbs were being built out, a developer would say, I want to build this development, and they would start a water district. That's how a lot of these, particularly county water districts north of the American River got started. They were basically captives, and once the neighborhoods were built out, it became an elected board of directors, and they continue today as the Sacramento Suburban Water District, the Carmichael Water District, whatever. So that's really the history north of the river for the most part.
Right. Well, we have an opportunity now to shift to the open house so that you have some time to talk individually with your elected directors. So we're going to go ahead and do that.
Were there no online questions?
There were no online questions. I've been checking
Yeah.
all evening. All right, so the directors are gonna come this way, and again, one of you.
Is there a chance we could get a show of hands of general favorability amongst people in this room?
You know, I don't know that everyone is interested in doing that. So if you want to share that with your director, I don't want to put people on the spot. So well, I think you should count to the open house. All right, thank you. And if you need help finding your director, let me know. And
Migrate to this side. Stay out of the way.
Right, so there's always that. I didn't realize that was there. Yeah, go check him out.
After the fire department really screwed us on me, you know, it's like, I don't give them any breaks at all. Well, my first meeting,
Yeah?
and the only problem I have is you guys have more intelligence here than we do in Congress.
I'll take that as a compliment for us.
No, because, the guy that gave the talk, at the beginning, gave out a lot of good information. Robert,
Quicker,
he hooked up with that pump company. That's showing that he's thinking way outside the box, and that's what counts. This guy,
With, Director Locke.
yeah, he seems to be a pretty cool guy. I mean, he goes, hey, you know, this is the way it's gonna work. But if you really look at it and stand back, it's gonna be a whole lot more sense. And combine the two. I can't figure out what Carmichael's issue is. If they don't want to do it, well, it's their loss.
I understand.
Yeah, it's kind of like, you know, you have the Constitution right to be stupid, that, you know, if you bring things together, it's gonna save a little bit of money for everybody.
Yeah.
But
Well, and we're exploring the option, looking at all of the different angles of it, seeing if it can work and if there are any little flaws. And so far, it sort of seems like it makes sense, but everyone has their own opinion.
I've gone around the world a few different times, especially in Iraq. And what they've got for a water system over there, they've got ditches that they've got all over Iraq. And they wash their cars in it, they bathe in it, and then they've got a little electric pump that pumps it up to the tank that's above their little boots, so they can get water out of it. And the water is so nasty, you can't go swimming in it.
Oh my God.
Because the bugs.
That sounds awful.
And then you guys you don't pull out of my Discovery Pump. And you really don't want to, Carmichael's really getting bad along the American River because all the homeless. You can't even swim in the river.
I know what you're saying. Yeah.
You know, and it's kind of like.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I was very impressed with you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. I think they did a great job.
Yeah, I think it'd be a.
Yeah.
All righty.
Yeah.
Take care, thanks.
Thanks, you too. Thanks for coming.
Thank you so much, and I'll hear from you by email at some point.
Yeah,
Is that the
you want
way
me
it
to
works?
email you? Is your email on here?
Yes,
I see it.
oakleafacademy@gmail.com.
Yeah, because I've just set up 6 different meetings with Rotary clubs for the 2 general managers. So it's perfectly fine. We'll just connect on what your availability is.
And I would invite you to Carmichael Toastmaster. I would invite, but we don't have residents of Carmichael in our club.
That's okay. I mean,
you
because
wanted to-
we're actually gonna be doing the presentation very similar to this one at different rotaries, even East Sacramento. I
Right,
mean,
well, if you wanna jot down, Carmichael Toastmasters meets 6:30 AM to 7:30 AM, we're an early morning club.
wow, no
Open-
kidding.
I know, yeah, open invitation, so you're welcome to come to that, and we meet Zoom 3 weeks of the month, and then the third Monday of the month is in person.
So like, yeah,
But our meeting place is very difficult, so we have a hard time finding a meeting place.
yeah, I was gonna say probably could do the time, right? Yeah.
Anyway, thank you very much. And I love hearing.
Oh, thank you. Well, we're getting close to Valentine's Day, right? I will be in touch with you though. I'll email you and we'll talk about whatever you want me to do.
Watch leader is awesome, and the thing is that I have a few people I would like to invite who are nearby, like on Creekside and different, because they're the folks who communicate with the rest of the people around here, and
Great.
that's what's needed, I
And
think.
this is the venue that we're hoping to get people to, so that we can show the presentation, so they can hear
Yeah.
Dan speak and
You did a
explain
great
why.
job.
And
You did a
he
good
did
job.
such a fantastic job.
The hard part, I think, to remember is, well, with everything that's said, you have to remember that nobody, they go into everything thinking, nobody knows anything about this,
Yeah.
and they all hate everybody.
Yeah, and that's why I think Dan did such a phenomenal job, because he really broke it down.
Yeah.
This is why, this is the history.
Yeah, and he remains certainly disinterested, which is good, because he's not, he's coming out like.
Neutral.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Tries to remain neutral, exactly.
I'm concerned that Carmichael Water District's Facebook page is almost non-existent. It's there, but they don't publicize.
Are you on ours?
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, Sacramento Suburban.
Yeah.
Like, I think, but I would, if I were you guys, I would run the ads.
We do. We run Facebook ads.
And do you do next door as well?
No, we don't do Nextdoor, because Nextdoor oftentimes becomes a platform for negativity, right? And for us to monitor that, I mean, we're 24 hours monitoring Facebook, and that's a lot in itself. If we have to maintain, monitoring Facebook alone is a full-time job practically, right?
Yeah.
But
that's-
then monitoring Nextdoor, oh my
I
gosh,
know.
that's
Well,
just,
if you've got a couple of people, advocates who are active on Nextdoor, you don't have to be there. They do the reporting. They'll be, but yeah.
you know, and it could turn into more of negative publicity, I think, than the positive, because what happens is misinformation gets out,
Yeah, oh, yeah.
and then we have to try to, damage control,
Yeah.
and it just becomes like a cesspool.
Do you get these advocates for Garden Arcade email?
I do. I'm part of that. Yeah.
That's what I was talking about.
I know. As soon as you said it, I knew it, because
Michael
when he said
didn't
that,
go out and say,
he did a great job. Well, I read the whole thing. I sent it to Dan and I said, I don't know if you received these, but I just want to make sure you saw this. And it was very neutral. And it
Well,
was,
he was not trying to shoot anything down.
yeah, exactly.
Like, okay.
He did a
This
good
must-
job.
I'm thinking this must not be.
Yeah, like, come on, look, they want you to
The
participate.
other thing I liked a whole lot about the last time was, or whichever meeting, I don't remember which one it was.
Jose Enriquez, that guy is, he is smart. I really like him.
It's the hydrologist.
Oh, yeah, Mark, yeah. He's been here before. Mhm. He's another smart, yeah,
Yeah, he actually knows what's going on.
yeah, yeah.
But the guy who wanted a little straw poll to see what's going on, don't ask him, ask the board. This is gonna be decided by the board.
If they're unanimous on both sides, then it goes through to LABCO, right? But it's just getting the directors to see the benefits.
You mean the director of Carmichael?
Both, right? So our directors, you can kind of get a feel for their opinion about it. They find the benefits of it.
Right.
And I think that,
I'm only in favor of this after having listened to, to me, when I first thought, very first thing, I was like, okay, we're about to get scammed, everybody. We're about, get ready. But I understand now, though, this is survival for water district.
yeah.
For county government.
And the economies of scale speak for themselves.
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah, as long as it's done well.
and
That you.
I think you now know Sac Suburban is run very, very well. I mean,
Well,
you've been
I
to enough
was-
meetings.
Well, and let me preface everything though, way back when, 20 years ago.
When it wasn't run well.
Uh-huh,
Yeah,
that
I was
my-
here.
Were you?
Yeah, I've been here 22 years.
Okay, so that's my thing that I've always had my reference point was way back when a friend
there's a water.
here. And the spouse of that friend was like, that place is
Corrupt.
horrible.
There's a lot of corruption. A lot of those people were arrested.
No way.
Oh yeah, we completely turned over. I mean, they were gone, arrested. Yeah.
So there's.
Oh gosh,
Okay,
yeah.
so that just made a whole lot of.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And as
Okay.
a result of that, we have been under so much scrutiny and
As
our
a whole,
audits,
right,
our audits
right.
have, I mean, we go deeper in our audits than required. We pay more, $7,000 more a year so that they can do even deeper dives to just ensure that we are
Right,
completely transparent.
right.
And we are run by such great management that,
Well,
I
I
mean,
like
it's,
his, I like that wanting to have everything done.
yeah, yeah. And
What's up with the?
he's great. He's such a phenomenal leader.
Yeah, I'm getting. it.
I mean, he just is.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
So, those union workers over at the Carmichael, that is awesome.
It is.
Those folks can ruin it.
It's a challenge. Because we're not union. We don't have a union here at
Well,
Sac
you don't
Suburban.
see one. Does anybody ever? Just saying, I didn't hear me say that, I don't know. I'm just
I
not real,
understand.
I'm not really fond of unions that really abuse. that. I think it's good, if you wanna be unionized, go for it, that's a value to you, but every union I've ever been near had no, they did not represent even anything close to what I was hoping they would.
Yeah, yeah. When that we don't have anything to do with unions at Sac Suburban. So it's very unfamiliar territory for me personally. So I think that's a challenge that we'll have to educate and
Yeah.
just try to communicate and see how we can work through it.
That's, he looks like this.
Oh, he's fantastic.
If you guys ever, and by the way, this is
Okay.
$75 for water and beverage. For an apartment, that's a nightmare. Our is about $50. Roughly not, I don't know, maybe not laundry. I just don't. There's a lot of
Well, we'll see what happens with All right, so I get back to doing right now. You get ready to do
All right, got like 1 minute.
Yeah, I don't think that.
Yeah, I love your scarf, by the way, it's very colorful. From mine, oh, really? Oh, nice, it's so colorful, it's right in my alley, I love that.
It's kind of a context, it's like, she said something you got. You're trying to send a message or something, and I'm like, no, I'm not gonna send it, thank you.
No, I think it's pretty, it's good colors. Yeah, no, they're beautiful, so I really like it.
Look forward to having you come to our neighborhood or whoever comes to.
Yep, I'll come, yeah.
There are several people in our neighborhood who actually pay attention. And that's how people get good information.
Good. I like those kind of presentations.
Yeah, as opposed to the hospital one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Ms. Harris.
Thank goodness you got that government out there.
Yep. Yeah, that's the guy in the green right there. He goes, just to let you know. That guy from. Like the.
Yeah, get up.
Rallied up interesting folks, the board member side.
Oh, I know, yeah.
Oh, good Lord. Oh, yeah, thank you. Is this, oh, this was the earlier one, yeah. Hey, we thought about it, we considered it.
It's not dinner today.
You said no cookies. We thought about it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the Carmichael too.
All right, so you want closing comments? Is that what we're doing now?
Yes, among you all, and anyone that's left.
I actually was very excited to talk to the people. I didn't hear a single negative comment or anything. I heard some questions, but I got no negativity about, quite a bit of positive things, the hydrologist and anyway, I'm very encouraged by what I heard tonight.
Me too.
Agree, I think that went well, especially, walking out and shaking hands and talking to people personally, that was a good idea.
I took some notes. I really think we need to put down on paper when a vote is needed. It's just not clear. I mean, there's too many ifs and buts, maybes, thus and suches, depending on.
I'm ready for the question. Yeah, I'm getting tired of wandering through this morass.
Are you're saying you could answer that question?
Oh,
No,
me?
not inside the public.
Oh, public vote? Oh, I don't feel like a public vote is necessarily needed. I mean, if, it just costs extra money. Northridge and Arcade voted or combined without a public vote.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It is entirely up to the directors of the two divisions.
Director Wicker, you could call a special election for an advisory measure.
I'm not interested in that. I want to know when it's required.
It's not necessarily required.
I know that. When is it required?
If more than 25% of landowners or ratepayers protest and less than 50%, then an election would be required.
under any circumstance.
Otherwise. It would not.
Consolidation,
Or consolidation,
okay. All right.
a.
More than
reorganization would-
more than 25%, but less than 50% protest, then an election is required. For consolidation.
Yes.
And then LAFCO is what's in charge of that. Staff isn't.
Right, so
Yeah.
that's,
Right.
okay, great.
So I was just saying, call for a question for the directors. I mean, yeah. If this isn't going anywhere, let's go. Do something else.
Well, you'll have the chance to do that at the combined meeting, won't you? Or at least get a sense of it.
Yeah, I hope so.
That's something we could put on the agenda for the combined meeting, right?
Oh, yeah. And I'll work with Kathy when I'm dropping the agenda.
Thanks.
Anybody got anything else?
For staff, no, sorry, I want to thank the board. I came very well prepared. And I've Heather sent all the information out to you guys and thank you. I think it was a good workshop.
I really appreciate sending out the material again. I thought that was great. I made a couple asks up from you for
Yeah.
some other material and I appreciate you
Yeah.
delivering that beforehand. I think being prepared. I think, you guys do an excellent job keeping us prepared and looking good. We aren't good and good. We got the answers right here and I thank you for that.
Thank you.
Now we adjourn.